We'll tell you what you need to know this morning, including that information about the UK helping to fund a detention centre on French soil to try to stop the flow of migrants crossing the UK via the Channel.
Yes, the deal was agreed in Paris yesterday between Prime Minister Rishi Sunak and President Emmanuel Macron of France at a summit to tackle the issue.
Now, the UK, we think, is going to pay about £480 million in funding over the next 3 years or so to help fund those measures, which are expected to be fully operational in 2 to 3 years.
Well, to go over that and more, we're joined now by the founder of Youth Vote UK, Alexander Cairns. Good morning to you. Great to have you in the studio with us. So first of all, what did you make of that summit between Rishi Sunak and Emmanuel Macron yesterday? It certainly looked very cosy. We were here live as they stepped into the Elysee Palace yesterday. They were holding each other's backs, lots of back rubs. I mean, it was significant, wasn't it? The first summit in 5 years.
Yeah, it was significant, and it's obviously good to see that they've got a good working relationship. You know, that's very important. France is a key ally for us. I think it was a little bit overdone in terms of, I think, you know, Rishi Sunak, I felt like he always has a kind of camera crew, you know, following everything he does all the time, and I think a little bit over the top, but I also understand that it's an important summit. You know, he's got a lot of pressure for this immigration bill. He needs to be working with France, so I understand, but, you know, I think we need a little bit less of the hugging and the kind of, you know, more detail on the policies, yeah.
Well, what more do you need to know at this stage? I mean, look, we're putting in £500 million over a number of years. France is putting money in too. We don't know how much.
Yeah.
And we're going to have, and basically, a detention centre and more patrols and things, but on the other side of the Channel. That's all got to help, hasn't it?
Yeah, I mean, but it's an interesting one because obviously we're going to have to wait a few years until it's operational. That's interesting. Why is that? You know, I know that the French obviously have to recruit some more officers for this.
They've got to build it for a kick-off.
And I think what's interesting as well is obviously, you know, working with France is important, but actually the whole, you know, approach to this, I think, is wrong. And actually you're seeing a lot of people that aren't necessarily satisfied because I think what Rishi Sunak is trying to do is anything that's a difficult issue he wants to address. And we saw that with Brexit, which is absolutely the right thing. But I think he assumes that because he got, you know, a win with the European Union on Brexit, that somehow working with the French government, this will be a silver bullet, there'll be a detention centre, more officers kind of on the French beach, and that would, you know, stop everything. And I don't think it's that simple, as we've seen, you know, historically, to be honest.
Did the pair seem on equal footing to you both yesterday? Because Stephen's just mentioned there, we know that we will be contributing £500 million to this detention centre in the next few years. We don't have numbers from the French, and there was also a difference in rhetoric yesterday. Rishi Sunak said he was very fortunate to be serving alongside Macron, but Macron said he wants to have the best possible relations, but the UK need to fix the consequences of Brexit. What do you think he meant by that?
Yeah, and I think this is the reality. I think we are going to the French trying to kind of plead with a political issue that we have. Obviously, they have a different perspective on this, right? So I don't think it's an equal footing. I don't think it's an equal relationship at all. And I think that's an issue for us because it means the French government have leverage. I think it's very interesting that we haven't found out how much they're paying, which probably indicates that it's probably not that much, and we're going to fund a lot of the bill. And I don't think British taxpayers are going to like that because I think this is a joint issue between France and the United Kingdom. But
Hold on. Why is it a joint issue between... I mean, because as far as France is concerned, they're not going to be at all concerned, are they? I mean, realistically, as we wouldn't be the other way. If there were people getting on boats from the UK and heading to France and leaving our country, we wouldn't be bothered, would we? So...
No, I see that point, but I think it's a joint issue in the sense of, I think the French people in the north, obviously, you know, there's a lot of, you know, migrants that are trying to, you know, come into the United Kingdom. There's a lot of these kind of camps where the French people aren't too happy, so it's still a political issue as much as Macron tries to play it down. I think, you know, from some of the contexts I have, in France, people are still very concerned about, especially in the Calais parts, that there's a little bit of an issue there and they want to get it sorted with the UK government.
What about the bill, then, that was put before the House this week? There is concern whether it can't work until there's a return agreement, somewhere to actually send people. But the idea, I mean, it's got the backing. Our GBNews People's poll yesterday, 52% of people backed that plan. I mean, something has to be done. I mean, is there a general acknowledgement of that?
I mean, so it's an interesting one because I think it really depends who you ask. I actually would say that overwhelmingly when we poll young people, they actually don't support the bill. And I think the reason they don't is if you think about, the refugees and asylum seekers and migrants that are trying to get a better life for themselves or fleeing war zone countries, they don't support the fact that if you think about, the policy, going to Rwanda, if you are leaving a developing country and coming to the UK or Europe, you don't really want to be going to Rwanda, right? So I think the policy really should be working with European countries and understanding how can we fairly look at, placements in European countries. Going to Rwanda isn't probably the right thing for those people that are leaving developing countries.
No, but the idea that if you try to come here illegally, then you are just back out and you will never get leave to remain.
But I think it's the definition of how they're coming here illegally. I think there's a backlog. I think I haven't got a real clarity position on what's going to be a legal versus illegal passage. Again, it depends who you ask. And I think if people are desperate and they don't have the right channels to get to the UK, absolutely, of course they're going to try and come here illegally. That doesn't mean that they shouldn't be allowed a fair kind of hearing as to why they should be given asylum or refuge in the United Kingdom. I think, again, that definition needs to be a little bit more clearer.
OK. Alexander, good to talk to you. Thank you.
Thank you very much.